guys, it's your girl Lady Shay, aka GeekXX Chic, and we are back with another reaction to Dr. Stone. We're on season 4, episode 7. So in the last episode, we had the infiltration of the new kingdom, I don't think I have a name for them yet, into the science kingdom with the new character. Oh gosh, I forgot her name already. But basically her job was to go in and figure out who Dr. Taiju is and identify him so that Stanley the sniper can take him out from a distance. And the hope is that that will take down the science kingdom and they can basically take over everything that they've got. But we see that in the midst of it all, she lets slip a little expression that's used by Dr. Xeno, and Senku picked up on it and was able to figure out that Dr. Xeno was actually someone that he looked up to when he was a kid as far as his scientific mentor. So now that he has a little bit more knowledge on who his opponent is, maybe this might give Senku a bit of an advantage as far as how to negotiate or possibly get one over on this Dr. X, I should say, and potentially maybe able to create more of a truce or an alliance versus this, war that's going on between the two of them right now. So we'll have to see what he does with this information, if he uses that to contact him and see what they can do. So let's jump in and find out what's going down. But just before I do, a reminder that if you'd like to be in the know of when I drop episodes, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell. All right, that out of the way, let's get into the episode right now.
Dr. Xeno は元 NASA の科学者か。
No chill. Worst spy ever.
科学の師匠に当たる男だ。
Maybe we should say he was at this point, because now he's kind of evil and wants to take people out with snipers. I don't think he's the same guy you used to know. Or maybe he is. Maybe he was always evil and you just didn't know. Y'all just be out here destroying the Japanese countryside with no repercussions.
でも論文ほぼほぼ英語だしな。辞書片手に気合いで読むしかね。
That is the way to do it. I guess Senku is before there was Google Translate or Chat GPT.
これを世界中に送るってことか。ああ、そうだ。もはやスパムメールだな。
Not even practically.
一生懸命英語で書いたのかな。質問。
と、何々?
Yeah. Senku's not a regular kid. Maybe you should pass this along to your actual engineers. I love that this guy over here looks like Einstein. Crimes? There's no crime in actually doing science as long as it's not to hurt people. Why? Why? Oh, I love how Taiju's always just as excited even though he has no idea what's going on. It probably costs all of your dad's salary. Yeah, people at NASA don't deal with cheap stuff, my boy. And it's not being paid for out of their pockets. The demons? What? Excuse me? That is your stepfather. Oh! Look at all that. See, don't you wish you'd spend more time with your old man, Senku? I'm teasing. They clearly didn't have the kind of relationship where they spent a ton of time together outside of what was necessary. Aw, Dr. X used to be somewhat of a nice guy. Guess all that being locked or frozen up in stone changed him. Maybe move, Senku. No? Exactly. Can you maybe not tell children how to work with combustible materials? Oh. Damn. Helium 3. Helio 3. Helio or helium? Look at the iPad. Ain't that the truth? Sadly, that's also true. People who aren't very smart. They just have to give good charisma. Why would you put that into the universe? Okay, he was always evil.
世界の仕組みを何でもかんでも知
Where
りてえ
did
って
where did Senku
欲
hear
張りな
that?
俺の息子みてえなのがよ。おお、それならその現れた彼彼女と勝負
I'm
だ。
glad you know it could be a woman.
そのワールドでどちらが科学を極めるのか。
Stone World.
どこ行くんだセンク？
アフリカ。
Just random? It's always a safari, huh? Africa's never just, you know, a city. Wow, he just spent all of his daddy's money just traveling everywhere he wanted?
親子仲がいいのね。
Not really. Did God just breathe on you? What's going on? Where did this breeze come from? He really just came to get the credit card. That's cold, Senku. That's really cold. Thankfully, though, your dad seemed to understand you, so... I mean, not that he really would have been able to stay very long anyways if his dad was working, but still. Are we saying maybe Xeno is the one who did it? That would be an interesting place to take it.
ところがほぼ全ての薬剤に不反応性。
Have you tried
唯一の
nitrate?
硝酸に微量なイオン流出が。紫外線は
There we go.
こんな鉱物は初めて見ます。いや、
Interesting.
鉱物と言っていいのか。
Stone?
多孔質穴ぼこの石なのか。なら試してみっか。
Look at them both investigating the same thing at the same time.
ゼオライトとか使うんだが、ツバメ石像の羽。
What science class in high school is letting him just randomly do this kind of stuff?
のはずじゃんよ。
Well, this guy
急遽俺ら
wearing that wonderful makeup arrangement, even then.
ケツの穴まで
What? Sorry?
スーパーヒーローが大
Okay,
集合
there's
じゃ
that
ねえ
girl who's always eating.
何の祭りだ？
Any other familiar faces?
脳波だよ。実にエレガントじゃないか。この石像はまだ生きている。
Ah, I see.
また一体と眠るように脳波が消えていく。
Oh no!
やられたやつは気合で起きてっとワンチャン安ぜってことか。
I mean, there's a lot of people who didn't stay awake, but they were brought back. All these men have been fighting over you since eternity. Okay. Oh, they were all together. I was wondering, okay, so that's why they all are together now.
おそらく石化の機械だ。勝負はその後。絶対に意識を飛ばす。俺らは死んでも王女を守るぜ。体さ。
So how did they have time to prepare? How did they know what it was? Interesting. Okay, so Xeno and some of the people in the US knew about this beforehand. Maybe not exactly how it was going to happen, but they knew something was going to happen. That's about right. That's about right. Okay, so she was just a Hollywood darling? Is that what we're supposed to understand? She literally said that for 3,000 years? My God.
何十時間も寝ないで動かないのなんか。狙撃で散々慣れてっかんね。
I think this is a bit different, bro. We're not talking about a few hours. Oh, like Senku, he floated away.
それがプラスかマイナス
So,
かは
wait,
わか
he
らない
could
が、
see?
編成ゼロよりは可能性がある。
Or is he just thinking of where they were before? Must be.
意識が途切れねえ限り、目覚めのチャンスは来る。
Interesting that they both came to the same conclusion, just in different places and in very different ways.
もし他にも科学屋がいれば、そこに集まることになる。
Mm-hmm.
運命とかじゃねえ。偶然でもね。
Mm-hmm. That's true. As they say, great minds or similar ones, they do tend to gather.
科学だ。
Got it. All right, guys. Well, that was a little bit of a backstory finally on how this connection between Senku and Dr. X developed. We have a little bit on Dr. X, but not a lot. But just essentially that he was a young scientist at NASA at the time that Senku started writing into them when he was a very young guy trying to put together his own rocket. And yeah, he just clearly enjoyed Senku's curiosity and brilliant mind and decided to foster that by helping him out and sending him information. And of course, we see that Senku just soaked up any and everything that Dr. X was sending to him. And as he explained to Taiju, that not all of it necessarily directly had to do with rocket building, but he just made him realize how vast and amazing the world of science is, and that the more you learn that you, or the more you figure out that you don't know anything, right? That's the thing about any given field, right? Every time you think you know everything about it, something new happens to show you that there's so much more you could potentially learn. So anyway, we see that that's what basically happened, and that Senku over the years just basically used his dad's credit card so that he could continue to follow these scientific trails that Dr. X sent him on. And I was half joking in the episode about how it's like he didn't seem to spend any time with his dad. I mean, he just seemed to just show up and grab a new credit card when necessary. But honestly, you know, we saw that growing up, that Senku and his dad didn't necessarily have the tightest of relationships in a traditional way. There was clearly a lot of love and respect for each other, but you know, Senku always wanted to do his own thing, and his dad, of course, being part of the space program, is pretty all-encompassing. So I think he pretty much figured, hey, if I got to spend some money to keep my kid occupied with something that's actually productive, then let me do that, versus him potentially getting into all kinds of trouble with me not being around 24/7. So anyway, we have some more, we just kind of got that background. And what's interesting is it does seem to be a shift that happened, because remember I was saying in the beginning of the episode that from what we saw in the beginning of this episode, Dr. X seemed like he was a pretty chill guy. Like he seemed pretty nice, he seemed very pure, his interactions with Senku were very innocent. How do you go from that to this man that we see in the future now, who is pretty ruthless and willing to take out, you know, people that he knows are clearly quite young? And I feel like it definitely happened between, we see that there's, during that passage of time montage, we see that he submitted a proposal, my guess is for some form of a project, and he got denied. We don't know why. We just know it's called, was it Project Helio, I think is what they called it. And we didn't get to even see the boss, but usually when they give you that whole tableau, it was somebody who was in a higher position basically shut him down. And my guess is it wasn't the first time he'd been turned down for one of his ideas. And from that point, I think something must have broken in him. And he just kind of thought, okay, like this is the way it's got to be. Well, I'm going to be different now too. And so when we got the fast forward to when Senku was an adult, we see that their correspondence, him and Dr. Xeno never stopped corresponding. And it looks like Dr. Xeno did figure out that Senku was most likely the son of the other astronaut, but he never really did anything to introduce himself. And yeah, we see that there was that question, right, that was posed inside of NASA, with someone saying, well, what if we got sent back to the prehistoric ages? What would you do? What would you do? And we heard him immediately say, effectively, that he would take over everything because he'd be one of the smartest people around. So, you know, everyone was kind of ha 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 when he said that, and you saw that he didn't deny it, or, you know, he was like, I'm not really joking. But of course, no one took him seriously. But it sounds like he always had a mindset of redoing the world in a way that he thought was the right way, or reshaping it in his image. And I don't know whether that's because he thought maybe that NASA or these other companies or places were not focusing on the right things in the old world, or what, but I think that they showed us, and even his look, right? He was very innocent looking before, you know, proper suit and tie when we first saw him, compared to closer to when he was petrified. The look had changed. He definitely had more of the look that we see now, which is a little bit more, I don't know, I guess the only word I can think of right now is villainy than the way it looks before. So something had happened. The point is, there's definitely a shift. And again, I don't know if it started with the rejection of that project, but something definitely shifted him from being a more optimistic scientist to a more pessimistic dictator. And so anyways, we see that him and Senku had very similar thought processes around the petrification. We also learned that what Dr. X learned about the petrification came from Senku's blog, because Senku started following all these stories around these birds that he was finding and things like that. So anyways, interesting to see that they've been connecting and kind of loosely working together all this time. But then whatever happened on the US side of things, they clearly got further with it than Senku ever did, for obvious reasons. And we see that it looks like they were somewhat anticipating that this petrification beam was going to come. Again, I don't think they knew it was a beam or how it was being delivered, but we see that they discovered that whatever was happening, it was definitely deliberate. It wasn't just some natural phenomenon that was happening. And so we see that when it did hit, Dr. X had already briefed a handful of people that were close to him that they would need to stay awake mentally in order to stop themselves from potentially fading away while they're in this petrification. And that's interesting that they said that, because I am wondering then, does that mean that some of the people who are petrified won't be able to be brought back because they fell asleep or they stopped thinking or their brains effectively stopped working. I do wonder because I can't think that everybody that they've revived thus far was awake the whole time. Like I think a lot of them probably did go to sleep, but I don't know. They never really made it clear whether or not that's the case, but it's an interesting new thing that they've added to this layer of everything. But anyhow, that's what he told everybody. And we see that as they were being petrified at the White House, that they all were aware of the fact, at least the people that we've seen so far, like Stanley, the big guard girl, and whatchamacallit, the pink-haired girl, her two little followers, all of them basically knew to stay awake, is my point. And that's probably the reason we're seeing them now, is that maybe that's why Dr. X is able to bring them back, but maybe he doesn't recognize, oh, you know what this probably it is? Now that I'm talking through it, I bet you that he seems to think there's a direct correlation between staying awake and the nitric acid, and that's why those people could wake up, and maybe he's tried to revive others, but they didn't, and he assumed that that's because they're asleep, or maybe whatever he's using with the nitric acid isn't working, whereas Senku was able to figure out through his own science, because like I said a few episodes back, I feel like with Dr. X, his specialty is more around the metals and the sciences around like the physics side of things, whereas Senku's got a real knack for organic chemistry. So all that to say that I think Senku was able to actually find the real magic sauce to create the revival fluid that will bring back pretty much anyone unless they've actually deteriorated. Like if their bodies have actually deteriorated really, really badly, then that's when it looks like he can't revive them. But as long as their bodies are intact, it seems to be able to bring them back whether or not they were awake. So, and yeah, they definitely, because the animator, right? Remember the animator that they brought back in season 2, he literally just woke up and started going back to work. He had no clue that, thousands of years had passed. He literally thought he was still at work. So that man was clearly not awake his entire time. So anyway, point being, maybe that's where the disconnect is for Dr. X's formula versus Senku's, which I love that, because even though Dr. X is he's the scientist, the proper like legal scientist, the one who went to school, and he's older than Senku. I love that it's showing that potentially he's got something to learn from this kid, because age and experience does not mean that we can't learn something from someone else. But anyway, we'll have to see if that's the case if and when they do meet up. But at this point in time, we now just know that the two of them are very similar, like more similar than not, that they've got a lot in common. And hopefully, as I said before, somehow, some way, Senku can maybe get through to him and get some dialogue going, and the two of them can work together, because really that's what should happen. And we're hearing Dr. X saying that if things got to a point where the whole world shut down like that and went back to the Stone Age, all the scientists should converge, because that makes the most sense to kind of get things up and going in society again as soon as possible. So that's what he was thinking before he went to sleep. How that changed or why that changed now is interesting, but hopefully Senku will help him remember that that was the way he was thinking at one point, and that that's the way it should be. So yeah, another good episode. I enjoyed that, getting a little bit of background, and yeah, we'll have to see where that actually leads in the rest of the season. So I look forward to that, and I hope you guys liked watching along with me. If you did, please show some love, and I'll see you in the next one.